All right, first and foremost, give our praise to you. How about you, my sharp thumb? Give a sincere greeting to all the brothers and sisters scattered across the four corners, teaching this word with sincerity and charity. Brother Feeney is here. Another short lesson, and we'll talk about the ant. Now, before I go into that, I had to tell you a story that I felt like I needed to do this lesson. With my father growing sick, I had to come down to Columbus and to pretty much take over the household. With him raising my niece and my nephew, I had to take over that lot, and the maintenance of the house to make sure they ain't tearing everything up. But anyway, the grass hadn't been cut. Looked like 2-3 months. Stuff was just super sky. Just sky high. So I go into the garage. He got 2 lawnmowers. He got the riding lawnmower back there. I see it got parts and stuff off of it. Look like he been tinkering with it. My dad is like a hoarder. So a lot of this stuff in here, it's stuff everywhere. Like, it's so much stuff in the garages that he can't put the cars in. He got a boat out there. He got a darn big old truck out there. He can't put the stuff in the garage because of all the stuff that he got in the garage. Anyway, I'm having to move all kind of stuff around to get to this thing. And I see it's pushed back to the back like it probably hadn't been in use. And then he had the little push lawnmower. And I'm noticing even the push lawnmower, I'm like, wait a minute. That's the same lawnmower I was pushing when I was in high school. Like, this lawnmower is over 25, 30 years old. And, but I still rolled it out of there. I'm like, man, this is a good lawnmower. I still rolled it out of there, and I he got that thing started a little bit, and I'm out there just going, blah, 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 and then the lawnmower ends up dying out. And I couldn't get it back started. I talked to my nephew, asked him a couple of questions about, because a dude around the street who has he got lawnmowers all over the yard. He fixes the lawnmowers. I asked him, had he been over there? And he said, yeah, man, he took the lawnmower over there one time and he had fixed it. And so I already see that the lawnmower has been fixed on. And listen, it's time for a new lawnmower. So I went and bought another lawnmower to handle this yard. Because the only reason the lawnmower stopped because the grass is so high that, if it's not high power, it's not going to power through that thing. So anyway, went and bought a lawnmower, cutting the grass, and I'm going over these ant beds. Going over these ant beds, giant ant beds. I'm like, yeah, man, boom. Yeah, y'all got to get out of here. Fly over the ant beds, like 3 or 4 of them ant beds. And the next day, I'm taking the kids to school. Next day, I look and I see the ant beds are back. Even bigger. Like they back even bigger than they was before. And I was like, that's amazing. Like, when those things happened to the ant, he did not panic. When the house collapsed, okay, when all hell broke loose, these propellers, this hurricane that came, washed everything away. The ants had that thing rebuilt the next morning. So that brought me to Proverbs chapter 6 in verse 6. It says, go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways and be wise, which having no guide, overseer, or ruler, provideth her meat in the summer, and gathereth her food in the harvest. Without having any overseer or guide or ruler. And I'm bringing this out too for us to understand that, man, we gonna have to grow spiritually, man. We gonna have to grow spiritually to the point where we don't need somebody to pick the spoon up and actually start feeding us all the time. That you gotta come and you gotta put your baby bib on, and somebody come and sit you down in your little what they call them, little chairs for the babies. I don't know, but y'all know what I'm talking about. And sit up there and do the little airplane thing. Hit a precept and put that thing in your mouth, man. You know what I'm saying? We gonna have to start growing spiritually and start delving into this word, even when we don't have a guide, even when we don't have an overseer. You know what I'm saying? Doing certain work that's not that's not told that we should be doing. You know what I'm saying? We should always be delving into the word. We should always be meditating on the word, and we should be doing this daily. But if we're not doing it daily, then we're not going to be growing. And a lot of times we're only doing it when we do have the overseer, when we do have the guy, when we do have the pastor telling us we'll turn to the book of, or we got the screen up and we got the precepts going, we got the slides going. We say, hey man, let's look at Proverbs, like we just went to Proverbs 6:6. All right, be wise, understanding that you have to do the work. You know what I'm saying? That you don't need a guy, you don't need an overseer, you shouldn't need somebody checking up on you, where you at, what you doing. This is why I don't do it. And now we're in a situation, principally we're in a situation where I have to be down here. And it's gonna show, you know what I'm saying? Like, are you gonna continue in the text? Are you going to, or are you gonna wait? Are you waiting for Brother Phineas to start the Zoom class for you to eat? You got a plethora of notes being emailed to you week in, week out. Are you going back over the notes? Should you be building you a short class? Sending me a lesson. Brother Phineas, I got a lesson that I put together that I filmed. I'm filming this on my phone. That I filmed on my phone. Short lesson. I'm going to send it over there to you. I'm going to email it to you. You know what I'm saying? You could edit, put it on the channel. From the notes that you've had already emailed to you. Are we meditating on the word? Are we growing? Do we have the same zeal as the ant? Are we as wise as the ant that does not need no seer or no guide or no ruler to tell him that, hey man, the house has collapsed. We need to rebuild this thing. Let's look at Proverbs chapter 30 and verse 25. It says, the ants are a people not strong, yet they prepare their meat in the summer. All right, they prepare their meat. Again, this is kind of the same precept. Let's look at Matthew chapter 24 and verse 45, self-explanatory. This is very important, though. It's another parable. It says, who then is a faithful and wise servant whom his Lord have made ruler over his household to give them meat in due season? Okay, and this is about the faithful servant, parable of the faithful servant, who when the master comes, we understand that the master is Yahweh, who the world calls Jesus Christ. All right, when Christ returns, he has given you to be an overseer over certain lots. All right, your overseer has given you to be an overseer also. We all have certain lots, right? We all have certain lots, and then, certain lots have to be filled sometimes, and people can be shifted. People can be shifted for many reasons. All right, this is why you have to be. That's how we have to build each other up. That's how we have to grow. We can't just be dependent on our parents. We can't just be at home dependent on our parents, because eventually our parents will be gone. We can't just say, okay, well, I'm just going to stay with my parent my whole life, and then, I ain't going to never grow up. I ain't going to never be responsible. I ain't going to never get no bills in my name. I ain't going to never establish no credit. I ain't going to never do these things that I need to do, because I'm under the wing of my, but your parent may get shifted, especially in these times. It's imperative that we grow up, man. And I'm just not talking spiritual carnally. I'm talking spiritually. Because our parents spiritually may not always be there. Our spiritual fathers may not always be there. Our spiritual mothers may not always be there. And so you may also have children, right? Because we all spiritual leaders in our household. Men, I'm speaking to men now. We're all spiritual leaders in our household. It's not my job. You raise your household. You spiritually are in control of your household. Even if you bring your household to principal and y'all learning, ultimately still, you chew the meat, spit out the bones. Whatever you chew, you may not agree with me on all things, but that spiritual authority belongs to you and your household. So you still have to grow up even under a leadership, because you are a leader within your house. You will have to be able to teach your children. It said if a woman has a question, let her ask her own husband. You got to be able to answer those questions. You got to be able to break some of those things down. And this is how you wash her with the word. This is how she grows her reverence for her husband. I mean, when she comes to you with a question and you have the answer, but you're not that you're going to Brother Phineas, or not that you're going to Gorilla Hebrew, or not that you're going to Bishop Nathaniel, but that you can go in the text and show her the answer. And this is how that reverence actually grows. Let's go back to that Matthew 24:45 though. Who then is a faithful and wise servant, whom the Lord have made ruler over his household, to give them meat in due season? Blessed is that servant whom the Lord, when he cometh, shall find doing so. Verily I say unto you that he shall make him ruler over all his goods, man. So we got to know when to step in, man. There was one incident where we was in class. I was teaching the class. Nobody had arrived at the class, but we had people on the Zoom call. So I still was running the class, reading the precepts by myself. Brother walks in, immediately opens up the book and begins to read. Seen the void, filled in the slot. All right. Didn't have to ask him, hey brother, you know what you do? Yeah, you need. Can you read for me? Like, seen the void, fill the slot. And we have to be grown enough to do that. We have to be grown enough to spiritually do that. All right. And so this ain't really just, coming down on nobody or nothing like that. This is just for edification purposes, that we need to, examine ourselves. Are we growing, and are we meditating on the word, or are we waiting? Are we waiting to be fed? All right. Are we bringing the meat in due season? All right. Are we watching over the servants, or are we waiting to abuse them? Continue reading on that Matthew 24. I think it was 24:45. Read on. Read on past 47. So I hope this thing was edifying, and that we, I pray that we have that wisdom as the ant, and we're all growing and we all learning. You're never too old, or you're never too spiritually grown that you can't learn. You know what I'm saying? We ain't finna learn everything. This is why the two witnesses are coming to expound upon us everything. There's some gray areas in the text that, we just ain't gonna figure out until that two witnesses. We can come get to a closer point or something like that. But don't never get into your heart that you can't be taught anything. And even from those that I minister with, I'm never too far that I can't learn from y'all, or that I can't be fed by even somebody on the street corners. Yeah, we out there to teach, but if a teaching moment comes, or somebody expounds upon me or upon us something that I didn't know, I'm gonna have, I didn't know that, man. I appreciate you for telling me that. Let me look into that, and if it holds up, hey, man, I appreciate that. And that's how a lot of times those messages come out and come through. And I think we talked about that in that last video, about us recognizing these messengers, and we seeing a messenger to come at us a certain way, but when the messenger is dressed in, humbly, or is dressed in a lower state, that it's hard for us to hear the message from that individual. But we have to make sure that we humble ourselves as stewards, as possessors of the oracles of God. All right, we Israelites, we are the possessors of these oracles. These oracles were given unto us, and we got to study to show ourselves approved. We have to be due diligence to make our election sure. And I just want to make sure that our brothers and sisters that we're continuing to do that, whether we have an overseer or not. Like, we have the wisdom of the hand. All right, with that, I say shalom. I pray this thing was edifying to the body.